Well, it was a chaotic final day in ACC basketball play. We've got Mitchell Northam and Adler and Alex Simon all here live from Cameron Indoor to break it down. The Locked On Women's Basketball Podcast starts right now.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making the Locked On Women's Basketball Podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant match deposit with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Well, hello, everyone. Alex Simon here, coming to you live from Durham, North Carolina, where we've got Ann Adler and Mitch Northam, all from the Next. We've got a trio of folks who were just here inside Cameron Indoor for what was potentially going to be Duke's coronation game, a win for the Blue Devils, and they would have won the outright. They could have won the ACC title, not outright, it turned out, but Duke gets upset at home by their local in-state 10 miles down the road rivals, North Carolina, which opens the door for Notre Dame. But as we're sitting here on press row, we had maybe the shock of all shocks, which is that Olivia Miles left that game in Louisville early for the Fighting Irish.
So not only do you have Duke going 0-4 against UNC during the #Kara era, you now have, instead of being the 1 seed with your 2 seed team losing really its best player and like the big engine that's kept them going after their only good volume shooter went down, you now have them stuck in the 2 seed, which, by the way, because of Notre Dame winning, also locks UNC into the 7 seed, which means in almost all likelihood we get this matchup again for the 3rd time this year in the quarters of the ACCs. We not only get that, but you have Notre Dame as, depending on what happens with Olivia Miles, they might just be your lame duck number 1. And a Florida State team currently losing to Clemson on the road might kind of walk into the title game.
Yeah, we are recording this at 3:15 Eastern on Sunday to get kind of the instant reaction here from the floor live. And Mitchell, I think I was the one who told you that something happened to Olivia Miles, or did you find out like at halftime from somebody else?
So for context for everyone listening on the podcast or watching, I was taking photos during the first half, walked over back to my seat on press row, and Marissa from Her Hoop Stats was sitting next to me, and she actually had the Notre Dame game going on her tablet, and so I caught a glimpse of Miles sort of gingerly walking off the floor. Yeah, it's pretty crazy that, I mean, we're talking about someone who was most certainly and probably will still get ACC Player of the Year votes.
Could be the ACC Player of the Year.
Certainly. Sure.
There are, I think at this point, we're both voters. There are probably about 3 ACC Player of the Year candidates, and she is one of them.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're talking about, I mean, the engine that makes Notre Dame go. Like, sure, was Darren Mabry a really tough loss for Notre Dame? Yes, but it wasn't like the end of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how they function without Olivia Miles. I'm sure Neo Ivy will figure something out. We obviously don't know how severe this injury is, but she did not come back into this game against Louisville, a situation where, yeah, you're trying to win an ACC title and grab that number 1 seed. So a crucial, really meaningful game by all means, and she did not come back into it. So it doesn't sound good. And, yeah, I don't really know what that means for Notre Dame. I would not consider them, if Miles is not able to play, I would not consider them the favorite in the ACC tournament. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people picking them to get upset in the first round of the NCAA tournament without her.
We'll make note, again, we're recording this. It's very quickly after these early games that include Notre Dame, that include Duke, North Carolina, and Notre Dame gets the win with us unaware of exactly what the status is for Olivia Miles, because Sonia Citron scores 27 points. And they were behind when Miles left the game. They come from behind in Louisville to get this win, to secure this solo ACC crown. I mean, as much as we kind of fear what Notre Dame could be without her, this is a pretty impressive win that they had to get without her today.
Notre Dame is a team with a lot of talent. They are very deep. When Darren Mabry went down, she basically got replaced by the composite number 20-ish. I think actually a little bit higher freshman in the country in KK Bransford, who's really stepped up and really grown into a really competent role as season has gone on. With Miles down, she probably gets replaced by a early enrollee in her first semester of college, another 5-star recruit in this class, in Cassandra Prosper. Probably not as prepared as KK Bransford is, just from a couple different perspectives. It's a weaker class. She's lower ranked. She's also, again, in her first semester. I'm talking about a team that is laden with so much talent that, from an on-court perspective, they have a lot of talent, and there are a lot of times to fill the gaps. Louisville's defense isn't, going to be the difference between that kind of team making it not. But when you look at having to play Florida State with the kind of versatility they can play with, even with a down day like today, defenses like Duke's, like UNC's that you have to get through to win the ACC, they don't have any shot creators right now. Maddie Westbold can get her own shot at times, but they don't have anyone who is going to get shots for themselves and get shots for others right now.
If they don't have Miles.
Yes.
We will keep saying that at different points to make it clear. But, I mean, you look at the box score, Mitchell, from that Notre Dame game, and especially knowing that Olivia didn't play at all in the second half, what stands out to you from what Notre Dame was able to do today?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really impressive and important performance for Citron. I mean, 27 points. I don't know if that's a career high for her, but it's probably pretty close to it if it's not.
We are unaware of being able to look things up. It sounds like it could be, though.
I mean,
Em might look it up.
27 points is really impressive for her. Again, in a crucial game with a title on the line, your last regular season game, the number 1 seed at stake.
And your facilitator leaves the game in the first
half.
half.
Yeah,
so
your
you have to do
backcourt
it.
mate leaves the game. And then, as Em mentioned, Cassandra Prosper, 11 points today off the bench. KK Bransford, 14 points today off the bench. So that's really important to get production out of those young players in this sort of type of environment that I'm sure in Louisville, felt like March.
By the way, all reports out of Louisville was that it was very loud and very packed in there.
Yeah, the Yum Center packs it in. They get loud, and I believe they led the ACC in attendance again this year with what a lot of people will consider maybe a down year for Louisville.
Well, funny enough, I've been impressed by Louisville, and even in this loss, as much as it is a painful loss, I think they are undoubtedly at this point a tournament team with what they've been able to do in ACC play, even the struggles that they had in non-con.
I don't think that's even close to being encouraging. The non-conference slate was what it was, but like Tennessee, who was pretty much like, you look at two teams having the same sort of storyline, and even in conference play, those two teams are right there with each other. It's funny that they started the down slope that ended up in an upslope in their conference, but they started that in the same Atlantis tournament together around Thanksgiving. I don't think it was even in question coming in today whether or not they're going to make the tournament. They're, I believe, right around number 25 in net. They were going to finish coming into today 4th or 5th in the conference. And look, they kind of skated by with their schedule. They got to avoid playing the Tobacco Road teams really twice, but they caught a couple different teams in the ACC while they were dealing with some injuries or on the wrong end of their own down cycles. But look, this is a good team. Jeff Waltz is an excellent coach. He's getting my Coach of the Year vote right now, I think, just because we've seen everyone on the team play before. They are really not playing any freshmen, and we've seen how they've come together as the season has gone along. They have a ceiling for what they can do in March, but just the fact that is the caveat we're saying here is so much better than what it was 3 months ago.
As we kind of look at what Louisville has become and we look at kind of the ACC writ large, before we get to the game that we all witnessed here in Cameron, first I want to talk to you about Prize Picks, where on a daily basis you can get projections on any sport that you watch. That includes, yes, the NBA, the NFL, MLB, NHL, but it also includes women's college basketball. If you want to see if Sonia Citron can keep this up when Notre Dame takes the floor next, if you really like Haley Van Lith and think that she can score, if you don't believe that Duke is ever going to score a point again, the way that M. Adler does, you can take the under on these player projections. Prize Picks lets you take the votes, not necessarily against other people. It's just you get the score and you get to choose. Do you think they're going to go over or under that? It is fantastic. Make sure you sign up for Prize Picks today. You can get an instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Thank you for joining us back here at the Locked On Women's Basketball Podcast. We are coming to you from the floor at Cameron Indoor, which was sold out for the first time in I don't even know how long, but 9,314 strong. And boy, Mitchell, there were quite a few of Tar Heel Blue fans that filled this place and seemed to really make an impact with their noise to help Carolina get what ends up being the best kind of rivalry win possible, one that stings your rival more than anything and takes something away that they wanted badly.
And stings in more ways than one.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of loud Tar Heel fans sitting right here where the Crazies usually sit.
They invaded the Cameron Crazy space.
I mean, the Tar Heels, like that chant, like that was a noticeable like loudness. It's pretty impressive. And there were a good amount of Duke fans here today too. And I think Kara said it in her post-game press conference. That's I think a testament of sort of their growth this season, Dukes. But also Carolina's. Courtney Banghart has been building this thing up. UNC had their first sellout since like 2015 earlier this year. When they hosted NC State, and when they hosted Duke, I think they set a program record for number of student tickets sold. Here in the Triangle, I mean, it's really good right now for women's college basketball. NC State isn't ranked right now, but they sold out all of their ACC games this year. Reynolds is still one of the best environments for women's college basketball.
It's incredible.
And this was a really great environment here today at Cameron. Yeah,
I'm very spoiled to get to come from the West Coast and take a little vacation time, slip in, get some work today, and be here with you guys. And as we sat next to each other today, I was floored by what Duke was able to build in an environment that the team on the floor had some interest in matching and wasn't able to step up to the moment. Could you say, or would you disagree?
I mean, I'll just say in terms of the fan perspective, I have gotten to see in my time here, if I had taken a fifth year and I matriculated during the 18-19 year instead of 19-20, I would have sort of gotten the full perspective of it. But you had Duke women's basketball games in the mid-aughts and the early 2010s were basically the UNC games sold out.
You mean the years where there's Final Four banners up there that they made it to the Final Four? Yeah, they had some huge crowds during that era.
The years where their starting center made 4 straight first-team All-American teams. Yes, the women's team was as rocking for basically every home game as the men's team was. And that waned a little bit towards the end of the Coach B, the McCallie era, for obvious reason. And then, the first year or so of the Kara era, especially coming back from COVID and the team sort of sagging down at the end of last year, it did not help them at all, really. But my freshman year, 1920, there were still some rocking games in here.
I was here for some of those games the last year, the Joanne P. McCallie era.
When UNC and State came here, it was full.
And, I mean, they had a good team that year. They were going to make the NCAA tournament. Haley Gorecki, Liana Odom.
Finished third in the ACC.
Yeah, that was a great team. I think they had a really long winning streak near the end of the year.
They went like 11-2 down the stretch.
And they beat Carolina in this building. That's the last time they've done it.
Which is a note, by the way, because Duke didn't play beyond a certain point of the 2020-2021 season. Kara still is now 0-4 in this specific rivalry game. And especially the way that this game happened, I feel like, you would say that this played to the way Duke wanted this game to go. And that maybe makes the loss sting more?
I think it played the way both teams wanted it to go.
That's
Duke
fair.
Probably wants it to go this way a little more. They're a little less equipped to sort of play a game against the Virginia Techs of the world and still win in the way UNC can. But I think we've seen largely this is the way that both teams are playing, even if it's not the way that probably UNC wants it to go. But I think, this kind of result and the competitiveness, even if the loss maybe stings a lot more than a win, especially for fans, I think we're probably still a year or two away from truly being able to say like the fan sort of turnout is back to where it was in those mid 2010s. But this is what you want. This is what you need. Even I think a 5-point loss here is better for the environment in the short and long term than a 20-point win would have been. And I think if they can keep up this level of competitiveness, the recruiting looks with where it is. It looks like it could be. Certainly, players want to play here. They love playing for Kara. This is really returning to be one of the great centers of the women's basketball fandom and atmosphere in a way that UNC kind of already is and has established itself probably for the past couple of years. It's just an amazing place to be.
And Mitchell, Courtney Banghart was glowing about not just the win, but kind of what it means to win in this building, in this environment. It's the lowest point total Carolina's ever had in a win in program history. I looked it up. The previous low was about a decade ago when they scored 48 in a win. to win 45-41. I think 53 combined turnovers in this game. We're really seeing a moment, I think, for Carolina in what's been admittedly a high challenging season. Not challenging in a sense of, they've gone through struggles, but that they have played games like this, high level, intense games against the top competition, night in and night out. And to get this win, especially coming off of a buzzer beating loss at home that we were both at on Thursday against Virginia Tech, is a huge kind of some wind in their sails.
Yeah,
for them.
Sure. And it's the first time that UNC has beaten Duke 4 times in a row since 2006, which was, a good era for UNC basketball as well, and a good era for Duke. So those are some good Duke teams they were beating. This is, Carolina, they had a stretch in the middle of the ACC slate where they went on a pretty good winning streak. I think won 5 or 6 or 7 in a row or something like that.
And that was after losing the first 3.
Right. And then they dealt with some injuries, lost some games they probably shouldn't have lost. But it was while they were trying to, bring along some of these younger players who made an impact tonight, like Paulina Paris and Caleb McPherson.
They both closed the game.
Yeah. So I think that time, while UNC suffered some losses, it will prove to be valuable as they go into March now because those younger players have the experience. And now UNC is fully healthy. They have Utsby, they have Hodson, they have Caleb McPherson, who has, I think, just played her 9th game of college basketball. I think going into the tournament, this is going to be valuable for them. And it's a big kind of momentous, win. And Courtney Banghart, more than maybe any other coach in the Triangle, maybe more than Westmore, certainly more than Kara, I think, just understands these rivalries and plays them up and plays into them and has fun with it. And I think has done some good for women's basketball in this area, just kind of, talking about it and talking it up and sparking the fandom.
It's also easier to spark it when you get the wins too.
Probably. And I'll say, in terms of them bringing the freshmen along, they are now quite literally 10 deep. The 10th player in the rotation was ESPN's number 13 recruit in last year's class, Tiani Key. Yep. And they have been healthy, like you said, now for exactly 2 games. They in the first of those 2 games, that was this past Thursday, you were there. They just barely lost to easily the hottest team in the conference in Virginia Tech.
Arguably the country for teams that have lost games. Virginia Tech looks that hot, you could say.
Yes, and then they came in here and did this today. That's what you're looking at with what UNC is doing right now.
And obviously, for UNC, they will have to win to force this matchup for a 3rd time. But they look like a team that might not get a chance to host without a run maybe all the way to the ACC championship game in the ACC tournament. But I think they probably, more than anybody, that would be a 5 or 6 seed right now, would be if I'm a 3 or 4 seed, I do not want to see them on the other side of my bracket right now with how deep they are and how versatile this group is and how battle tested they clearly now are.
If they beat the matchup that they play in the second round of the ACC tournament, that'll be UNC's first game. They're going to play a team that probably will not be invited to the WNIT. If they win that game, they will then have a rematch against Duke. If they win that game, they will then almost certainly have a rematch against Virginia Tech. That is their path to the ACC championship game.
If you win both, that maybe does get you all the way up to a 4 seed, but that's a tough task.
I think that will probably be enough if they do that, if that scenario happens.
If you beat 2 teams that are going to at least seed themselves on the 3 line,
because Duke and Virginia Tech are locked in. If you beat both of them in back-to-back days,
you're there.
I think you deserve to host. Yes, absolutely.
And I don't think we would say that would be the case if they had lost this game. This game gives them that window, and we have seen, again, these are the last 2 teams they played, and they've played them incredibly tight.
I think more than anything, winning this game might give them a shot to just beat Duke again, and then as long as they don't get blown out by Virginia Tech, you have an easy argument for a 4 seed, especially when you consider they were missing Hodgson, their only good shooter, and a great one at that, for 10 games. They missed Utsby for 5 games. And they suffered, I think, 3 or 4 conference losses in that span.
Yeah, and Utsby just does so much for them.
So much.
They wouldn't have.
She allows them to play a little undersized at the 5 and a little pretty limited.
Yeah, I don't think this game would have been competitive today without Utsby.
Yep.
I think she led them in rebounding. She scored 9 points. She just does so much for them offensively, defensively. And she made an impact game in that game against Virginia Tech. There were so many times during that 5-game stretch where they didn't have her in Hotzenberg, they got out rebounded or they just got out toughed, and she just kind of gives them that grit. She's really important to their success.
And we will certainly get a chance to see, and we'll talk a little bit more as the ACC as we go national here in just a moment. But first, folks, when these teams play again, it's going to be March. And with March here, if you're going to end up like me, what you basically do is just you're glued to a couch all day, you're sitting down, you don't move because there's so much basketball to watch with all these conference tournaments. But if you're trying to snack healthier while doing that, you have got to get a Built Bar. Built Bars are only 130 calories. They're 4 grams of sugar and 17 grams of protein. So they're healthy. Not only that, they taste great too. So if you go to BuiltBar.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON15, that's LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off of your next order. Once again, that's BuiltBar.com, promo code LOCKEDON15. So as we take a look here, we are currently recording. It is now, as we record this, 3:35 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. Em has a computer right here that has the Iowa-Indiana game on. So we don't know exactly how some of these conference tournaments that we're looking at are going to truly shape up. We know a general shape of the ACC, even though as we record this, there's still Virginia Tech to play tonight, that they're locked in at 3, but we don't know, will they suffer a loss maybe, shockingly? We don't know. The one conference we do know, though, because they wrapped everything up yesterday, is the Pac-12 out in my neck of the woods. I'm going to get you guys to talk some West Coast ball here. And that Utah win over Stanford doesn't impact seeding, but it sure impacts a lot of what I kind of perceived of this Utah team.
It doesn't impact conference seeding, but it sure as hell could impact where everything in the NCAA tournament runs through.
I guess, Mitchell, I don't know if you were able to watch yesterday, but to me, watching Utah get this win as we kind of record, we're doing this live, folks, but when you take a look at comparatively, does it feel like the Pac-12 and ACC have had a similar thing where there's just so much quality that you just don't know what's going to happen on any given night when you go to watch a game?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's certainly the Pac-12 and the ACC. Really, I mean, there's just so much quality from teams 8 to number 1. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think the Big Ten and the SEC, to a little bit of a lesser degree, it's really top heavy. There's the Big Ten, there's 5 teams at the top. The SEC, there's 2, and then there's sort of a cluster. But yeah, the Pac-12, yeah, I mean, Utah was 8-8 people last week. Stanford was number 3. You might see them swap this week. We got the top 16 reveal, a couple nights ago, and Utah had a number 1 seed.
They were all the way up at 4 overall and at the 1 seed line, and then they got this one.
Yeah, so it's pretty impressive. I think when the season started, I don't think I imagined a situation where UConn and Stanford weren't going to have number 1 seeds, but we could be heading there. I don't know. We'll see.
It's going to be really interesting to see kind of where the rest of these conference tournaments shape up, because I think Stanford could easily, I think both of those teams could end
easily
up
get
at 1 seeds, in part because we've seen UConn lose another game and actually almost lose a second game this week.
And if UConn doesn't get Azzy Fuddruck, then you're looking at a very different resume, and one that really I don't think sniffs a 1 seed.
And
despite the net.
LSU, for as much as they have gotten to this point with only 1 loss, it's clear that the committee doesn't truly respect what they've done. And the 1 loss is a bad loss to South Carolina at that.
We've seen in pretty much every sport that factors in on this level with this kind of level of attention and detail given to selections. It's not NCAA, but the selection committee for the football bowl series semifinals and championship, men's basketball, women's basketball, really both soccers and both lacrosses. At this level, it's proven time and time again, the committees care more about who you beat than who you lose to. And LSU has beaten decent teams, like teams that I have in my top 25, but they got crushed against their only top 15 opponent.
And as we kind of look around the country here too, within this, I think the takeaway that I have from both the Pac-12 and the ACC as we wrap up here is playing in these tough conferences might give you those numbers, but they don't in any way denigrate the quality. And I think everybody is starting to realize that, even with teams that are the 8th and the 9th and even the 10th, they're giving you games that everybody knows are really different.
And Duke played a little bit of a walkover in its non-conference schedule. But the difference between that and LSU is Duke went out to the West Coast and they played a couple of really good teams out there.
It was Iowa and Oregon. It was
Oregon State.
It was Oregon State was the other game.
Was it Oregon State?
Because no, it was Iowa. I thought they were in that 4 with Iowa. UConn.
It was something like that.
They sought it out. Oregon State was the only Power 5 opponent LSU played. And
Yes.
I think as we wrap up here, we want to thank you guys for joining us here as we're kind of getting kicked out by the sounds of the cleanup here happening. I guess, do men play basketball, Em? Do they have that happen in this gym? I don't know.
They do, but they are no longer playing in this gym this year.
Oh, so they're literally getting this gym ready to be done for the season. So we're going to let them do that. We thank you guys.
Whoa. The women will play here again.
You're right. I should be careful there and say that there will probably be NCAA tournament games here. So I guess if you lose in the first round to UNC again, you never know. Kara needs that first win off over UNC pretty soon, I would argue. Thank you guys for making the Locked On Women's Basketball Podcast your first listen today. Now make your second listen, game to game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.